If someone told you that the woman who destroyed your life would one day kneel in the rain and beg for another chance, would you forgive her? What if I told you that by the time she finally realized she loved you, you had already stopped loving her? And what if the cruelest part wasn't that she betrayed you, but that you knew she was going to do it from the very beginning? Ethan Cross opened his eyes inside a hospital room. The first thing he noticed was the smell of disinfectant. The second thing was the crushing pain in his chest. The third thing was the woman sitting beside the bed. A woman so beautiful that she looked unreal. Long black hair, sharp features, cold gray eyes. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make everyone else disappear. The moment Ethan saw her face, his blood turned cold. Because he knew exactly who she was. Aurora Blackwood, the female lead of a novel he had read before dying. And not just any novel. A terrible melodramatic billionaire romance called Hearts of Regret. A novel so frustrating that Ethan had left 100 angry comments online criticizing every character. Especially one character. The male supporting villain. The obsessive husband. The pathetic fool. The man Aurora hated more than anyone. Ethan Cross. His heart nearly stopped. No way. The woman beside the bed frowned. What did you say? Ethan stared at her. Then he looked around the room. Luxury private hospital. Fresh flowers. Expensive decorations. Everything matched the descriptions from the novel. His hands started shaking. He remembered crossing a street. He remembered headlights. Then darkness. And now, he was here. Inside the body of the novel's most hated character. A man destined to lose everything. A man who spent years desperately chasing Aurora. A man who forced her into marriage through financial pressure. A man who eventually ended up alone, hated, and bankrupt. Ethan almost laughed. Of all people, why him? Aurora crossed her arms. The doctor said you suffered a mild concussion. Her voice was as cold as ice. Since you're awake, sign the papers. Papers, right? Ethan immediately remembered. This was the beginning of the divorce arc. One of the most important moments in the story. Aurora had finally decided to leave her husband. And the original Ethan had refused. He begged, cried, threatened, made scenes. The divorce battle lasted nearly 2 years. It destroyed both of them. Ethan looked down at the document. Then his eyes widened. $30 million. That was the settlement amount. For a moment he forgot all about reincarnation. 30 million. The original Ethan fought against divorce? Was he insane? Aurora expected another argument. Instead she watched Ethan grab a pen. Sign every page. Then push the papers back. Done. Silence. Aurora blinked. You. Anything else? You agreed. Why wouldn't I? For the first time since entering the room, Aurora looked genuinely confused. Ethan nearly laughed. Because he knew the plot. Aurora expected obsession, desperation, resistance. Instead she got a man who looked ready to celebrate. Which was exactly what Ethan intended to do. An hour later he walked out of the hospital carrying divorce papers and a bank transfer confirmation. The warm afternoon sunlight touched his face. He had money, freedom, and most importantly, he no longer had to participate in the nightmare romance of the novel. His phone suddenly rang. The caller ID displayed a name. Claire Sterling, Ethan's childhood friend. The richest young heiress in the city. Also the only person in the novel who genuinely cared about him. Ethan answered. A loud voice exploded through the speaker. Did the Ice Queen finally divorce you? Ethan smiled. Officially. A scream of excitement nearly destroyed his eardrum. You're kidding.
No.
Where are you? Outside the hospital. Stay there. The call ended. 20 minutes later, a bright red sports car drifted into the parking lot. The driver jumped out before the vehicle fully stopped. Claire Sterling looked exactly like the novel described. Golden brown hair, confident smile, eyes filled with energy. Everything Aurora lacked. Without warning, she threw her arms around Ethan. You survived. People stared. Ethan laughed. I got divorced. I didn't survive a war. Same thing. She pulled back and examined him carefully. Are you sure you're okay? Never better. Claire narrowed her eyes. That answer surprised her, because the old Ethan would have been drinking himself unconscious by now. Instead, he looked relieved, happy even. You're acting weird. I've had an enlightening experience. Meaning, I'm never chasing someone who doesn't want me again. Claire froze. For a brief moment something flickered across her face. Hope. But it vanished quickly. She grabbed his arm. Then we're celebrating. That evening they rented the most expensive private room in an exclusive club. Music echoed through the walls. Champagne flowed endlessly. For the first time since arriving in the novel, Ethan genuinely relaxed. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the city, Aurora sat alone in her penthouse. The signed divorce papers rested on her desk. She should have felt relieved. This was what she wanted. Freedom. So why did something feel wrong? She looked at Ethan's signature. Clean. Steady. No hesitación. No emotion el outburst. No pleading messages. No late-night calls. Nothing. It was as if he had wanted the divorce even more than she did. The thought irritated her. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared. From Adrian Hale, the man she had loved before marrying Ethan. The novel's male protagonist. Aurora stared at the screen. For years she believed that once she escaped her marriage, everything would finally return to normal. Yet somehow, nothing felt the way she imagined. The next morning Ethan returned to the mansion he technically still owned. The place looked enormous, and completely filled with Aurora's belongings. The original Ethan had decorated everything according to her preferences. Her paintings, her furniture, her favorite flowers, her favorite colors. The entire house felt like a shrine. Ethan stood in the center of the living room, then made a decision. Nope. Within hours he hired a moving company. Workers entered the mansion. Boxes filled every hallway. By sunset every trace of Aurora was gone. Photographs disappeared. Personal belongings vanished. Even the expensive piano she loved was removed. When the last truck departed, Ethan looked around. The mansion finally felt like his. Unfortunately, peace never lasted long. 3 days later, the front gate opened unexpectedly. Aurora stepped out of a black luxury sedan. She froze. Half the mansion was empty. Workers carried furniture outside. What is happening? The house manager answered politely. Mr. Cross instructed us to remove everything belonging to you. Aurora felt strangely uncomfortable. Why? The manager looked confused. You are divorced. Of course they were divorced. She knew that. Yet hearing it from someone else felt different. Like a door had truly closed. As she walked through the house, the emptiness became impossible to ignore. For years Ethan had centered his entire life around her. Now it looked as though she had never lived here at all. A strange emotion settled in her chest. Not sadness. Not regret. Just discomfort, like something familiar had vanished. Far away, Ethan sat inside his newly purchased villa overlooking the ocean. Smaller, quieter, far more comfortable. Claire examined the property and nodded approvingly. Good choice. Ethan smiled. No memories attached. Claire glanced at him. Still no regrets? About the divorce? Yes. None. For a brief moment Claire looked away to hide her smile. And for the first time in years, she allowed herself to imagine something she had buried long ago. Maybe, just maybe, the story wasn't over yet. Maybe it was finally beginning. For the next several weeks, Ethan lived exactly the way he had always wanted. No endless arguments. No emotional manipulation. No desperate attempts to earn someone's affection. Just peace. Every morning he woke up in his oceanfront villa, drank coffee while watching the sunrise, and reminded himself that he was no longer trapped inside the tragic fate of the novel. At least that was what he believed. Unfortunately, destiny seemed determined to drag him back into the story. One Saturday afternoon, Claire convinced him to accompany her to the city's largest luxury shopping center. You've been hiding in that villa for almost a month, she complained while dragging him toward the entrance. I'm enjoying retirement. You're 30. Exactly. Early retirement. Claire rolled her eyes. The two entered the massive mall together. Since both came from wealthy families, neither attracted much attention. At least not initially. Then fate decided to interfere. Ethan spotted Aurora, and standing beside her was Adrian Hale, the male lead, the great first love, the man Aurora had supposedly never forgotten. The pair walked side by side through the shopping center. To most people they looked like a perfect couple. Beautiful, successful, elegant. Exactly the image portrayed throughout the novel. Claire immediately noticed them too. Her expression darkened. What rotten luck. Ethan shrugged. Let's go the other way. Unfortunately, Adrian had already spotted them. His eyes narrowed. For years he viewed Ethan as an obstacle. A possessive husband standing between himself and Aurora. Now that obstacle stood only a few meters away. Adrian smiled. The kind of smile that wasn't really a smile. Ethan. Ethan sighed internally. Of course. There would be drama. There was always drama. Aurora turned and froze when she saw him. For some reason she hadn't expected to encounter him. Especially not looking so relaxed. During their marriage, Ethan constantly seemed exhausted. Tense. Anxious. Now he appeared completely different. His shoulders were relaxed. His eyes were calm. He looked younger. Happier. The realization annoyed her. Adrian stepped forward. It's been a while. Not really, Ethan replied. About a month. An awkward silence followed. Then Adrian casually adjusted Aurora's shopping bags. A subtle display. A deliberate gesture. The message was obvious. Look how close we are. Look who won. The original Ethan would have exploded. This Ethan almost laughed. Instead he said something completely unexpected. Congratulations. Adrian blinked. For what? You finally got what you wanted. The smile on Adrian's face stiffened. Before he could respond, Ethan continued. You and Aurora can stop hiding now. Aurora frowned. What do you mean? Ethan looked genuinely confused. Aren't you together? Silence. Adrian's expression changed instantly. Aurora looked away. The answer itself revealed everything. Claire nearly choked trying not to laugh. Ethan suddenly remembered. Technically they weren't dating yet. That happened later in the novel. Sorry, he said casually. My mistake. The embarrassment on both their faces was almost worth the trip. Then Ethan delivered the finishing blow without even realizing it. Anyway, I hope everything works out. He wrapped an arm around Claire's shoulder. We should get going. Claire happily played along. As they walked away, she waved cheerfully. Good luck, you two. Several nearby shoppers had already begun whispering. Aurora stood frozen. For some reason, the entire encounter felt wrong. She had imagined seeing Ethan after the divorce countless times. She expected anger, bitterness, jealousy. Instead, he looked like a man who genuinely didn't care. And somehow that bothered her far more. Across the mall, Claire finally burst out laughing. Did you see their faces? Ethan grinned. I might have accidentally started a problem. Accidentally? Mostly. That evening Aurora couldn't stop thinking about the encounter. The image replayed repeatedly in her mind. Especially one detail. Claire. The way Ethan interacted with her felt natural. Comfortable. There was no tension. No insecurity. No desperation. Just trust. Aurora hated herself for noticing. Over the following weeks, strange rumors began spreading through business circles. People started seeing Ethan and Claire together more often. Dinner meetings, charity events, private gatherings. Most assumed they were dating. Neither bothered correcting anyone. One afternoon Aurora overheard several executives discussing it during a meeting. They actually look good together. I heard Claire has liked him for years. Honestly, she seems better suited for him. Aurora's pen snapped. The room fell silent. Everyone immediately stopped talking. But the damage was done. For the first time, Aurora felt something unfamiliar. Jealousy. Meanwhile, Ethan remained blissfully unaware. His biggest concern was avoiding his biological family. The original Ethan's relatives were terrible. Once they learned about the divorce settlement, They immediately began demanding money. His older brother called daily. His mother left dozens of messages. His father even appeared at the old mansion. Fortunately, Ethan had anticipated everything. He changed numbers, moved houses, and cut every connection. When Claire heard about it, she approved completely. They treated you like an ATM. They treated me worse than that. Then forget them. I already have. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt free. No toxic marriage. No toxic family. No impossible expectations. Just a future he could shape himself. Then everything changed. It started with a hospital. Late one evening, Claire received a call from a mutual acquaintance. Aurora had collapsed during a business conference. Severe exhaustion. Low blood sugar. Stress. Nothing life-threatening, but enough to require hospitalization. Ethan heard about it and shrugged. Hope she recovers. That should have been the end of it. Instead, Adrian turned the incident into a public spectacle. Within 24 hours, social media exploded. Photos appeared online. Hospital pictures. Emotional posts. Comments criticizing Ethan. People claimed he had abandoned Aurora. Others accused him of being heartless. Some even blamed him for her condition. The accusations spread rapidly. Claire nearly threw her phone. These people are insane. Ethan examined one of the posts, then laughed. What? He wants attention. Who? Adrian. Claire read the article again. Suddenly she noticed it. The wording. The carefully crafted narrative. The implication that Aurora still suffered because of Ethan. The entire thing felt deliberate. He really did this? Looks that way. Claire expected Ethan to ignore it. Instead, he stood up. Where are you going? Hospital. What? If he's trying to use me as a villain, I might as well visit. Claire stared, then began laughing. You are absolutely terrible. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the hospital carrying a basket of fruit. The receptionist immediately recognized him. Within minutes, whispers spread throughout the building. Aurora was sitting upright when he entered. The moment she saw him, shock flashed across her face. Ethan? Morning. The room became completely silent. Neither expected this meeting, especially not after the online drama. Aurora looked at the fruit basket. You came. Apparently the internet thinks I'm responsible for your blood sugar. For the first time in weeks, a tiny smile appeared on her face. It disappeared quickly, but Ethan noticed. What he didn't notice was the elderly doctor entering behind him. A doctor who happened to recognize him. A doctor who unknowingly carried a secret capable of destroying everything. The woman paused after seeing Ethan. Her expression became complicated. Ethan Cross. He turned. Yes. The doctor hesitated, then sighed. I didn't expect to see you here. Something in her tone felt strange. Aurora immediately noticed it too. The doctor's eyes moved between them, as if debating whether she should say something. Finally, she shook her head. Never mind. Ethan frowned. What is it? The doctor opened her mouth, then closed it again. For a brief moment, guilt flashed across her face. A guilt so obvious that both Ethan and Aurora noticed. And neither realized that within days, a buried truth from years ago would surface. A truth that would completely shatter everything Ethan believed about his past. A truth that would make him question whether he had ever been a reincarnated soul at all. And once that secret emerged, nothing would ever be the same again. If the story made you feel something, leave a like. Not every story is meant to comfort you. Some are meant to follow you. And if this one stays with you, subscribe, because the next one goes even deeper.